exactly, what are like the key KPIs, like the top 3 you're always looking for in a presentation?
Verbal comprehension. Verbal comprehension is what I said. Oh, but
in a presentation. So, could you? Sorry, did you say in a presentation? Like just in a presentation. I just, like KPIs versus the pitch, or okay. So, I think just a clear value prop, right? So, like, what does your business do? What problem does it solve? And how am I solving it? I think that's the primary.
Yeah, I'd go with that. I'd go along with that too. The differentiation, why now, and what makes you different from everyone else, and then truly, what keeps you from what's defensible that you have that other people can't go after, and then can you articulate that brevity with substance? And then
I will add too, just if you do list out your competitors, just be honest about it. We're so used to seeing your company, all the green checks, and then another company, like red check, one green check, but just, be clear about, where you stand in the market or where you plan to play in the market.
Yeah. And, do you mind? No, good. Yeah, I'll expound on the verbal comprehension piece because it's actually really critical. So the verbal comprehension has a lot to do with leadership. And when you're pre-seed, you think a lot about product, but like you need a team. And so and as you know, as someone who has a more diverse background, right, like the way in which you communicate may not be the way that someone receives information. And so being able to have some cognitive flexibility and difference and variability in how you, one, communicate information and then receive it to appeal to many audiences is really important. And then it also goes, to me, it translates often into how you understand your own industry and your differentiation, because it sort of goes into nuance. So I was a teacher, by the way, so I think really deeply about these things. And so that's why that sort of matters to me. I look for that.
Any other finalists? Awesome.
Sorry, we had an audience question.
Oh.
Do I need the microphone?
Yeah, go.
Okay, hi. I'm Maxine Bryan, all the way from Savannah, Georgia.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
So,
sorry.
came a long way.
Yeah.
good afternoon. I'm Maxine Bryan, Dr. Bryan from Savannah, Georgia. And I have an invention that is pre-electronic. It's a board game that will become mobile, that will become total electronic. Here's my question. Where in the process, or what would you like founders to already have in place before you decide to invest?
It really depends on the business. So you just sort of described a gaming business, right? So I think with that, for that specific industry, what you'd want to have is sort of a wait list, right, of people that are like maybe interested in your game or something like that. But like in other types of businesses, you probably would look for other things, right? If it's a medical device business, you might want it to be going through that process of getting approved to be able to be sold. So it just really depends on the business. But I think in with your example, it would be maybe a wait list of potential customers that may want to acquire it or buy the game.
I'd say, I'll say an explicit use of funds that line precisely to the assets that will be created as a result of that. And so that could be like the team that you have in place and then what revenue they're going to drive. It could be your suppliers, right? So making sure that you know exactly where the money is going to go so that you can hit the ground running. Because with pre-seed, it's often you're catching a trend, and so you want to move as fast as possible. And so that would be something that's important, the use of funds and through line to the actual assets and players that are going to be able to drive the value of those funds.
Those are both great things. What I love to hear is, tell me about the time when you've actually shown that game to someone and people will give you authentic input and client discovery of, here's what I like about it, and here are the things that I think you need to adjust. And being able to show that in a pre-seed conversation around, these are the things that I learned from speaking with people that play the game, that goes a long way versus I think or I believe. It's always great when you get input from people who are actual users.
I'll also add something too. The why now piece of things is really valuable. And so understanding like why is this the opportune time for this to come to market is really important. And then oftentimes people will talk about their problem as a situation. So there's a concept called like gravity problems, which are like, 80% of the world is obese, right? That's a gravity problem. But then there's actionable problems, which sort of direct line through the wedge that you're going after. And so understanding like, this is the situation that we're in, this is the wedge which is identified or clearly communicated through a distinct problem space that's actionable and able to be chewed away at is also super valuable to see.
I saw Austin had his hand up. Catherine, did you have a question too? Okay. Thank you. My question was, how in your respective industries do you think about like the future of work, and kind of how you're seeing the future of work shift in your respective industries?
I have thoughts, but go ahead. What?
That's a deep question. I mean, I was wondering if anyone was going to bring up AI yet. I guess I'm the first one, so sorry. But, what I'm seeing lately sort of within the venture world is that companies are able to scale a little bit faster and raise a little bit less capital or be a little bit more scrappy with utilizing AI within their businesses. So like, for example, we'll probably see a little bit more of a mature seed stage company that hasn't raised as much capital coming to market to raise capital because they're able to sustain their business a lot longer because they're able to utilize and really take advantage of AI within their operations. I would say that's kind of like the future of work from that perspective. And then I think that's kind of like where I'll put it, but
Well, I might be a little long.
Okay, I'll make mine short. I'll give it twofold. The first I would say is a lot to what Hunter said around you can do more with less. I mean, we're seeing companies now that truly are getting multi-million-dollar valuations because their market traction has been such that they've been able to leverage automation and intelligence to drive the business forward, whereas it used to be very capital intensive. The second part of that is also behavior is dynamic, and what works today likely in the future will need to be adjusted, like the insurance industry and automotive industry. Where I'm getting at is the companies that not only can tell you that they're solving a problem for today, but what they're building is something that can be adaptive to the future. Those are the things that I would say are 100% getting our attention on. You're not just solving for today, 5 years from now, you can evolve into something that's much more dynamic and penetrable into the market.
I'd speak from the labor perspective, and I got excited because I used to work at Indeed.com and then was working in education and workforce. So what we're seeing is VCs wanting to invest in founders that are more experienced. And especially with AI, we want people with PhDs. Within healthcare, we want people who have seen it, done it before. And it's because of the need to de-risk, but then also because the barrier to build has decreased, right? And so with that being said, that being able to not only understand nuance, but like deliver on it is just critical. And so I think this also reflects what's happening broadly with the labor market, where it's really hard to get hired if you're a generalist, right? And that generalist definition is often for people who are like 2 years, 1 to 4 years out of school, right? They haven't really specialized yet. And so as a result, lining it up to your product, right? You then have people that are going to become entrepreneurs because that's where the generalist skill set, right, becomes a little bit more valuable. But yeah, I could go on about this, but my question is like, if we have your product, right, in the world, and we believe, or if that statistic of 58% of people, 50% of people are going to be entrepreneurs, my question is always, who are the buyers if everyone is an entrepreneur? And so are you thinking about those questions, what are the consequences or externalities as a result of that truth or your product existing? And what's that answer?